So our last chapter, why does psychology matter? What is it to our social lives? Social psychology is a branch of psychology that's the scientific study of how we feel about, think about, and behave toward the people around us, and how those people influence our beliefs, feelings, and behaviors. So this is different from sociology, in that sociology looks at the group dynamic. How big does the group have to be before this begins to occur, this phenomenon or this thought process? Where social psychology is only interested in how I as an individual affect the people around me and how they affect me. Couple of terms, or actually several terms to keep in mind here. The social situation, the people around me at the given moment. So my social situation at work is the students I work with, my boss, my coworkers. Social situation on the weekend is whoever I'm hanging out with. Okay? So in a way, I pick and choose my social situations. I pick and choose who I'm with. Social cognition, the part of our human thinking that helps us to understand and predict the behavior of ourselves and of others. So somebody does something and you look at them and you're like, why did you do that? That's uncharacteristic of you. That's not like you to do that. So in other words, that behavior was counter to your prediction of their behavior based on what you know. Attitudes. These enduring evaluations of people or things. Enduring evaluations is the important part here. These are overall. This can include prejudice. Okay? So my underlying beliefs, biases, attitude are those enduring evaluations of other people and things. Social norms. I think this is a term we're probably all familiar with. For the purpose of this course, it's the accepted beliefs about what we do or what we should do in a particular social situation. So I know that at work I have to behave a certain way, and on the weekend I can be more relaxed. That's those social norms. When I meet somebody new and I'm not quite sure how much of my sense of humor I can show them, or at what point they might be offended by something, then the social norm is for me to be very reserved and just kind of listen and observe and kind of figure them out before I know how to behave. An interesting concept. Physical attractiveness. We've all talked about first impressions. We know that you make your first impression in a matter of seconds, and it can take weeks, months, years to overcome the wrong first impression. But the biggest proponent of our first impression is our physical attractiveness. Your physical appearance makes the biggest determining factor in somebody's first impression of you. And whether you know it or want to believe it, it's what informs your first impression of other people. This is why stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination is so hard to overcome. We don't always realize that we're judging someone based on their physical appearance, but we are. The interesting thing is these three items, stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination, all work together in influencing our behavior. And they're all in our heads. They all come from us. When I apply a stereotype to someone, it has nothing to do with who they are because I don't know them yet, or I wouldn't be stereotyping them. I just met them. So based on their appearance, I'm going to categorize them this way, and so I'm going to respond to them in this way. And it's all in my head because I haven't even said hi yet. Another key concept to keep in mind here is the self-fulfilling prophecy. So someone who is always told that they're part of this social outcast group is eventually going to believe it, and then they're going to start acting like it, and then they're going to confirm that stereotype so that it continues. It's a vicious cycle, and it's very hard to break. So that concept of self-fulfilling prophecy, we tell people that they're limited because of whatever stereotype we're putting on them. They hear that enough, they begin to believe it, and then their actions begin to reflect that belief, and now our prejudice is that much stronger because it's been confirmed. A vicious cycle that needs to be broken. Another concept or another term to keep in mind is causal attribution. This is the process of trying to determine the causes behind people's behavior. So I observe a behavior and I immediately wonder, why did they do that? The answer I come up with is my causal attribution. Most of the time it's probably wrong, unless I do some further investigation. But we all do it. So that's one of those cognitive biases we have to be careful of when we're trying to think critically in situations. A term that some of you may be familiar with is altruism. Altruism is just the concept of doing something for somebody who can't repay you. Doing something kind because it's the right thing to do, knowing that that person's never going to be able to repay your kindness. Why are some people prone to being altruistic? Why are some people prone to giving to others and other people aren't? Social psychology will look at that and try to answer that question. Okay, a few more terms. Self-monitoring. Your ability to regulate your behavior to meet the demands of your social situation. So we already talked about the social situation, just the people that we're interacting with at the moment. So my self-monitoring is my ability to behave in the way that's deemed appropriate. Okay? Now my self-perception, using my own behavior to look back and help me determine my thoughts and feelings. So this would go with introspection or self-reflection, looking back at the way I did something, handled a situation, something I said, and trying to use that to determine what are some of my underlying attitudes or biases or prejudices that maybe I need to fix. So the self-perception is using my behavior to determine my own thoughts and feelings. Okay? The bystander effect. This term isn't in your book, but the concept is. The bystander effect is when we're in a group of people, whether we know them or not. I could be in a mall with a bunch of complete strangers, and I see somebody steal something from someone else that's not looking. Whether or not I act is generally determined by whether or not other people act. It's an unconscious behavior, a group behavior, that I see that I make eye contact with somebody else in the crowd who saw it, and we both stand there and look at each other and don't do anything, and then turn around as if we never saw anything. It's unspoken communication that if you're not going to do anything about it, I'm not going to either. It's that diffusion of responsibility. It's not my job. That thought process. Now, I would like to think that most of us would say something in that kind of situation. The reality is, though, until we get in that situation, we can't really know for sure how we're going to act.